What's up, Cowboys Nation, and welcome back to the channel. You already know what time it is. We're diving headfirst into one of the most talked about preseason matchups of the year, the Dallas Cowboys versus the Los Angeles Rams. This game wasn't just about the score, it was about competition, roster battles, and coaching identity. And boy, did it give us plenty to talk about. From rising rookies to struggling veterans, to how Brian Schottenheimer's play-calling debut as offensive coordinator fared under real pressure, this game was full of narratives that will shape the team going forward. Let's be real here, preseason games may not count in the standings, but they absolutely matter for shaping the roster, giving guys a shot to prove they belong, and helping coaches evaluate what they've really got. So let's break down everything we saw, the highs and lows, and how this Cowboys team is shaping up as we move through the preseason. And trust me, there were clear winners and losers in this one. Let's start with Joe Milton III, a guy who came into this game with a lot of hype around his name. A big arm, athleticism, physical tools off the charts, but as we always say, that arm strength means nothing if you can't place the ball where it needs to be. And unfortunately for Milton, his performance was a mixed bag at best. He struggled with accuracy, missing receivers on short and intermediate throws, and making a few head-scratching decisions, including a deep ball into double coverage that turned into an interception. That's the kind of play that just can't happen at this level, even in preseason. What makes it even tougher is that Milton's competition in the QB room didn't exactly light it up either, so this was a golden opportunity to separate himself, and he didn't take it. He ended the day with some decent numbers, including 2 touchdowns, but the reality is that those late-game stats were inflated by facing third-string defenders. What really concerns coaches is the inconsistency, the inability to move the offense efficiently, and the fact that he left the game with elbow soreness. Not ideal for a guy fighting for a backup spot. Now let's talk about Brian Schottenheimer, because this was the first time we got to see what he looks like calling plays with his own system. Look, no one expects an OC to open the entire playbook in week 1 of the preseason, but what we saw was about as vanilla as it gets. And in some ways, that's even more frustrating, because preseason is the perfect time to test things out, get creative, and take a few calculated risks. Instead, we saw a play-calling script that lacked rhythm, felt overly cautious, and didn't put the quarterbacks or the playmakers in position to shine. There was barely any motion, little in the way of misdirection, and way too much reliance on short passes that never really stretched the defense. And then there were the penalties, way too many on offense, suggesting a lack of discipline and poor sideline communication. That ultimately falls on the coaching staff. Schottenheimer has experience, no doubt, but this conservative approach won't fly when the real games begin, and it didn't look good even against the Rams' second stringers. On the flip side, not everything was doom and gloom, far from it. One of the brightest stars in this game was rookie linebacker Marist Liufau, who looked absolutely dialed in from the first snap. This guy was flying all over the field, showing instincts, quick reaction time, and a nose for the football that you just can't teach. Whether it was crashing into the backfield to blow up a run, or dropping into coverage and reading the quarterback's eyes, Liufau looked like he belonged on an NFL field. He led the team in tackles and made an impact on nearly every drive he was in. For a rookie, that's exactly the kind of performance that turns heads in the coach's room and builds trust with teammates. Another standout was safety Israel Mukuamu, who made one of the highlight plays of the night with a gorgeous one-handed interception down the sideline. That's the kind of moment that makes you stand up off the couch and shout. It wasn't just a lucky grab either, it was textbook coverage, fluid hips, perfect positioning, and then the athleticism to finish the play. Mukuamu's been on the bubble in terms of how the Cowboys plan to use him, but if he keeps making plays like that, there's no doubt he'll have a major role in the secondary rotation. It's not just about the interception either, it's about the confidence, the presence, the awareness. He looked like a guy who understands the system and knows how to bait quarterbacks into mistakes. And let's not forget about the undrafted guys fighting for a spot. Trayshawn Holden was one of the most exciting names in camp coming into the game, and he absolutely delivered with a monster 42-yard catch that set up a touchdown. Plays like that are gold in the preseason because when you don't have draft capital behind you, you have to take every chance and make the most of it. Holden showed great burst off the line, tracked the deep ball perfectly, and hauled it in under pressure. He's making a strong case for a roster spot, especially with the depth at wide receiver still very much up in the air. Then there's Malik Davis, a familiar name who just re-signed with the team days before the game. Talk about making a statement. Davis ran like a man possessed, finishing with over 60 yards on just 7 carries. That kind of efficiency is exactly what you want to see from a guy who's been around the league, understands the system, and is now hungry for another shot. His vision, balance, and ability to hit the hole with purpose gave the offense one of its few consistent sparks. Don't be surprised if he climbs up the depth chart quickly if he keeps running like that. And speaking of players on the rise, how about Tyler Guyton? This rookie offensive tackle made one of the best first impressions you could ask for, delivering a brutal pancake block on his very first snap and then showing excellent agility in pass protection and run blocking. Offensive line play doesn't always get the love it deserves, but coaches notice when a rookie steps in and immediately starts moving defenders off the line of scrimmage. That's what Guyton did, and it was incredibly encouraging to see. He's not just strong, he's smart, technically sound, and plays with a bit of a mean streak. Exactly what you want in a future starting tackle. Let's also take a second to appreciate DeMarvion Overshown, who made his return from an ACL tear and looked like he never missed a beat. Fast, physical, and fearless, Overshown was disruptive in coverage and against the run, playing with a chip on his shoulder. After such a brutal injury last season, seeing him back out there making plays is a major win for the Cowboys defense. Of course, not everyone had a good night. There were coverage busts in the secondary, miscommunications on the offensive line, and some undisciplined play that led to costly penalties. That's to be expected in the preseason, but it's something that needs to be cleaned up fast. One player who had a particularly rough outing was cornerback Eric Scott Jr., who did get an interception but also committed several penalties and got beat in coverage more than once. That's the kind of roller coaster performance that puts you in a tricky spot with coaches. Do they focus on the flash plays or the inconsistencies? There's potential there, but the clock is ticking. As for the Rams, credit where it's due. Their young guys came ready to play. Their backup quarterback looked sharp, the run game had rhythm, and their defensive line gave the Cowboys front a real test. This wasn't just a bad game by the Cowboys, it was also a strong effort from a deep Rams roster that came in with a point to prove. And perhaps the most memorable moment of the night didn't even come during the game itself. It was Dak Prescott on the sideline, confidently telling Rams ownership, "We'll see y'all in the NFC Championship." That's a bold claim, especially after a preseason loss, but it shows where Dak's head is at. He's confident in this team, and maybe, just maybe, this preseason adversity will build the kind of mental toughness they need to finally make that deep playoff run. The truth is, preseason is about more than wins and losses. It's about evaluation. It's about seeing who can step up when the lights are on, who has the composure, the football IQ, and the fire to take a roster spot and run with it. From Joe Milton's struggles to Marist Liufau's emergence, from Schottenheimer's conservative debut to Mukuamu's show-stopping pick, we saw a bit of everything. The road to the regular season is just getting started, and the battles are heating up. So here's my question to you: who stood out the most? Who do you want to see more of next week? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if you enjoyed the breakdown, and don't forget to subscribe for more Cowboys coverage all season long. We've got more analysis, film reviews, and game previews coming your way. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Cowboys!